Guys, what's up? Welcome back to another episode. Today we're talking about intercoolers. This is a new unit I got from Power Performance Products / CNR Racing, and I got myself a new intercooler fan from Wayland Speed, and we're going to show you the differences between this intercooler setup aftermarket versus the stock intercooler that comes on the Canam X3, as well as go over some differences between a tube and fin style intercooler and a bar and plate style intercooler which comes on the Canam X3. Pros and cons to both. There's aftermarket versions of both. So then we'll go ahead and start. We'll remove the old intercooler, put it on the bench, and put them side by side so we can see the differences. Let's do it.
Let's do this.
Doing an intercooler on the Canam X3 is actually really easy. This actually just pulls right off. It's a little easier when you remove this cover, but since I don't want to remove the whole thing, I want to wrestle it out just a little bit. And I already started removing everything. So there's pretty much 4 bolts holding down the intercooler. There's 2 on the front here. As you can see here, I already have them kind of loose. And there's 2 on the front side, which if you come over here to the access cover of the Canam X3 where the turbo is at, you'll see the holes. There's one right here, and there's another one to the left of it, right over here. They're really easy to see and spot and remove. Before you go and pull your intercooler off, you obviously got to take off the hose clamps and the charge tubes, which is also very easy. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so I pulled off the CVT intake duct that goes into the clutch housing cover. And from there, we should be able to see the charge tube that I removed, which is this guy here. Now in your car it might be different. I do have Evolution Power Sports charge tubes that do have a different clamp design. It's one of those T-bolt style clamps. And then you remove the other one, which is pretty much your throttle body side, and can be accessed right here. So right above the exhaust, I already had this loose, and there you can see I just pulled it off. Obviously, I had left it loose. So 4 bolts, 2 charge tubes, and last but not least is the intercooler fan connector. So we'll go ahead and remove that. You get access to that from the driver's side. You'll see it just hanging around there. We're gonna go ahead and unplug this puppy. All right, once you got everything out of the way, this intercooler should just pop up. Really simple. All right guys, to the right we have an OEM intercooler. To the left we have the aftermarket Power Performance Products intercooler, also known as CNR Racing. These are sought after all racers. Why? Because they are some of the best intercoolers on the market. They have the data to prove it, and they seem to always have the best intake air temperatures out there when it comes to these aftermarket intercoolers. Now, I'm sure you guys are asking yourselves, why do I want one of these? Do I want one of these? And for what they cost, do I really need one? Well, you really don't. If you're going to be running your vehicle pretty much stock, you're not going to be running any higher boost, higher horsepower tunes, or you're not going to be racing, you don't need a aftermarket intercooler. The OEM one is sufficient enough, will do the job, and yeah, just save your money. But if you're racing a lot, if you find yourself in the sand drags, if your buddies are smashing on you and you got to freaking answer back somehow, well then, you might be looking into a higher horsepower, more boost tune, or you might get a bigger turbocharger. Whatever the case may be, you may want to run an aftermarket intercooler to keep your intake air temperature down and get more ponies when you need them. So what does the intercooler do and how does it work? Well, these are what you call air-to-air intercoolers. The air being sucked into your engine goes through the turbo, gets compressed, and goes through your intercooler before it goes into your engine. The reason we run it through your intercooler first is because normally the turbocharger gets really hot, and that means you get hot air, and hot air is no bueno for your motor. You want cool air. The cooler the air, the more dense the air, the more oxygen in the air, the more gas you can put, and that means more air and gas in your cylinders, and that means more horsepower. So what we do is cool the air as best as possible. Now, a stock intercooler does a good job. An aftermarket one will do a better job. These Power Performance Products intercoolers, some say they're getting 30-degree differences between this intercooler and the OEM one. Now, that's a big difference when it comes to racing, or you're just trying to have some fun beating your buddies and you don't want to lose. Well, this might help you because after 3 or 4 runs, you might get some heat soak, which this will get. This will too, but it's able to dissipate the heat more faster. So say you're drag racing your buddies, down the dry lake bed a few times. I'm talking about 4 or 5 times. There's a whole line of you guys are having fun, and you notice towards the end of the last 2 runs you start slowing down. And I don't mean a whole drastic slowdown, but I do mean you're not as fast as you were the first couple runs. Well, it's very, very likely your vehicle is heat soaking. And what does that mean? That means the intercooler has gotten hot from all those high horsepower, high RPM runs that you just did. It can't dissipate the heat fast enough, and you're getting hotter intake air temperatures. And what does that mean for the engine? Well, it's gonna retard timing, you're gonna have a little bit less horsepower, and your buddy might beat you. And we don't want that, do we?
Hell no, to the no, 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 yeah, to the no.
So where this aftermarket intercooler comes into play is we're gonna have a lot more efficient intercooler for one. We're gonna have a bigger cooling fan that's gonna dissipate the heat faster, and we're gonna have a more consistent horsepower when it comes to racing. All right guys, in the power sports and automotive industry, the 2 most commonly used intercoolers is water to air, which you will find on a Razor Turbo that uses coolant to cool the air coming from the turbo into your engine. And then we have air to air, which is used on the Canam X3, which uses air from this fan to cool down the air passing through the tubes in the intercooler. Now both these intercoolers do the same exact thing. They both have an inlet and an outlet. Air passes through the inlet, goes through these tubes. The fins pull heat from the tubes, and the air comes out the other side a lot cooler. A lot of guys are seeing 30-degree drops from the CNR Racing and Power Performance Products intercoolers, which is a big deal to make horsepower.
I'm kind of a big deal.
Now 2 different designs of intercoolers. This is a bar and plate, and this is a tube and fin. This has heavier duty construction. This one has a lighter construction, but I feel it dissipates more heat judging by how much fins it has. Those fins will draw heat away from the air passing through and overall give you a better cooling effect. And it's proven by the data from this company. They know what they're doing when it comes to intercoolers, and that's why racers choose them. Now you guys will see a lot of aftermarket intercoolers out there. Some use the bar and plate style, and they look awesome. They look heavy duty. They look like they work freaking great. But I don't think they will work as good as a tube and fin. These just seem to work better, and that's why racers choose them. Now this is an apples to oranges comparison. They're completely different. Obviously the OEM intercooler, they're trying to save some money, so they're using plastic tanks on the sides. The problem with the plastic tanks is when you're running higher boost, you can have leaks on the side here where they are crimped on this welded piece. You're not gonna have that problem. This is designed for high boost applications and can withstand a lot more than the OEM intercooler. So we're gonna go ahead and install this on the X3. We're not gonna take it for a drive, it's already late, but I can assure you this is a lot better. Everybody's running these when it comes to racing, when it comes to big turbo kits. There's a lot of guys out there, and there's a lot of manufacturers, I'm not gonna say who, that actually use CNR Racing to make their intercoolers for them. Don't forget to install the clips. Now, like I said, these can handle a lot more boost, and you guys can just tell from the construction. I'm gonna get that on there. You guys can just tell from the construction, just these welds, you know, they're dropping dimes when they're putting this together. The aluminum side tanks, these can handle just so much more than the OEM can. So if you're running higher boost, it's a must to upgrade. Now these aren't cheap, I know, but you get what you pay for. If you're racing, you know, it costs to race, man. Now you guys know I'm not racing, but I can't be losing to these guys every time we go out, so you gotta do something. Alright, so that's bolted down. Upgrading the intercooler alone isn't gonna make you faster. The tune is the main thing. To keep those temperatures down, you obviously use the intercooler, but there's other stuff you want to support with that intercooler. An aftermarket fan will do a lot better job of cooling that intercooler. Also, you can run an override switch for the intercooler to turn on when you want it to turn on, not just control when the computer wants it to turn on. Now normally most tunes will cause the intercooler fan to turn on sooner, but in this case, since I don't have a tune yet, we could run a override switch, which I'll probably do in the future. But for now, this is it. I do want to mention the intercooler fan that I purchased wasn't exactly matching up with this intercooler. There was some space on the sides, and I'll get a light to show you guys that. So I don't recommend this combination together. I'm making it work, but it may not work for some of you guys. So now it's gonna be hard to see, but there is a space between where that plate of the cooling fan meets to the intercooler, and I had to use a piece of really rigid foam with double-sided tape to put that on there. Now it's really rigid. It's not gonna come off. But that's one of the reasons I don't recommend it. You want a cooling fan housing that's gonna match up perfectly to your intercooler. Like you can see this one on the OEM one matches perfectly with the intercooler. I highly suggest calling whatever brand it is you go with. I don't even want to cover it up. It looks so goddamn nice in there. You gotta do what you gotta do, boy. Now, although the intercooler is bigger, this one is a OEM replacement, so it fits in there perfectly. It doesn't rub anywhere, so I'm happy with that. Now, if you have a 20 and up, the intercooler is bigger, and the actual plate that houses the intercooler is also different. So make sure you get the appropriate year for your vehicle. Alright guys, I'm all done. Don't forget to plug in the connector for the cooling fan, and we'll see you guys on the next video. More parts coming in, box load of them every day, and subscribe to the channel for more videos from FRANKGLIFE. See you guys next time. Stay dirty.